I saw this photograph of you hanging off the back of a fire truck at 17 years old, art student, Audrey Smaltz, Del Marco model. And I just thought, who is this woman? I was so captivated by the photograph. I wanted to know more about you. And I think of Harlem as being this center of Black excellence with these poets and musicians and artists, painters. Were you aware that your community was at the part of this big cultural movement when you were growing up as a child?
I don't think I was aware. I was a part of it. Can you imagine? I mean, it was just human nature. I live in the Harlem River houses. Now, the Harlem River houses was the very first, what they call projects. Well, we never called them projects. They were the Harlem River houses. And they were only 4 stories and 5 stories from 151st Street and 7th Avenue to 153rd Street from the river over to McComb's place. And a Black architect, Mr. Wilson, I believe, was the architect, a Black architect who graduated from Columbia University, designed these buildings. And everybody looked out for everybody. In fact, I started drawing then because I had one woman used to teach me to play the piano. I really didn't like playing the piano, but my mother wanted me to take piano lessons. But then we had this famous artist, I can't remember his name right now, who taught me how to draw. So I was really drawing. I was thinking about it. Yeah, I was drawing when I was like 10 years old. And then we had a library within the Harlem River houses, and we would leave school on Friday and get there so the lady could read us those fabulous stories. The librarian on Friday at 3 o'clock. We were dashing to get the best seat on the floor.
I really wanted to talk about this photograph, which is the first photo that I ever saw
My
of you.
mother hated this photograph. And you know what? G. Marshall Wilson, look at it. G. Marshall Wilson took this photograph. He was a fabulous photographer with Ebony magazine, Johnson Publishing Company, because he did Ebony and Jet. And he gave me the swimsuit. He carried swimsuits with him. Can you imagine? They gave me the swimsuit, and my mother said, well, why did he have to take that angle?
Well, you really
they
get
put
to
the
see
boots
those long
on,
legs.
and look at all the hair I had.
So good. One of the things I love so much about this photograph is your expression.
Really?
I think it's really, I think it's a really interesting time for women because obviously, you can see your figure, you can see your legs, and it's
those are long legs, huh?
That's some pins.
Really?
But then your expression is very healthy, wholesome, peppy.
Well, I didn't smoke. I didn't drink. I'm 17. I didn't do what these kids are doing today. This vaping is unbelievable with these young people. We didn't do that.
No. It starts here in the sense that you're such a young model and you're starting out in the world. And I was really interested in this photograph because when I grew up in the 90s, and I was in this guitar band called Helen. And there was a movement called Riot Girl where they used to take a lot of photos from this era, the 50s era. And, they would punk them up. They would use certain lettering and that would be the advertising for the show. It would say, come and see the Slits or come and see these wild girl bands. And they would use this imagery, which is very demure and innocent but sexy and very empowered.
In London,
in New York, like all over where the scene was, they would use this type of imagery. And the song that I wrote, which is called New York Transit Queen, which is about you and about this photograph, is really
unbelievable.
It's sort of a response to that where I felt like there was a lot of Black artists in the 90s playing rock music, including my band. And they have kind of been erased from the history of that music. And so the song that I've written is kind of a combination of this photograph and your attitude in this photograph, but also
that's amazing.
The fact that I don't want these Black women to be written out of the story. So yeah, it's a short punky song.